It's not often that I listen to an album that astounds me, and believe me, I listen to a lot of stuff. But this record took my breath away. Ralph Waldo Emerson said that beauty is God's handwriting, and there is definitely something of the heavens about this one on an album appropriately titled Altitude. Anyway, let's discuss it, shall we? The latest album by Lifesigns is a wonderful, wonderful record. I truly believe that great prog really does take you places, whether it's like an almost out-of-body experience listening to Close to the Edge, or perhaps a out-of-mind experience listening to Lark's Tongues in Aspic. Two great albums, by the way. But nevertheless, I think the point is that this music aspires to a transcendent listening experience. And this album ticks all the right prog boxes as far as I'm concerned. A lot of the, what I call neo-prog bands tend to seem to be constantly looking backwards too much. Those behemoths of the 1970s. But this album sounds refreshingly fresh. From the opening track, that 15-minute magnus opus, or magnificent octopus as Baldrick might say, you realise that you're listening to something that's truly wonderful. You get that rush of endorphins, I think, when you're really enjoying something. Especially with this one, as you become enmeshed in all the little twists and turns and sonic tapestry that very much is this record. And it has to be said that this album is wonderful in terms of its musicality. It takes us down all sorts of interesting prog rabbit holes. I have to say, reverential to classic prog, without necessarily replicating its usual motifs and tropes. This band has undergone some personnel changes since the last album, Cardington, with some new names coming in. Forgive me if I made any mistakes here, but a shout out definitely has to go out to Dave Bainbridge, who is already establishing himself as a kind of a prog god guitarist. The prominent ground of John Paul's bass really announces itself on this record. And we must doff our caps, of course, to Steve Rispin, whose innovative sound design gives this album its perfect edge. The production is absolutely superb. There are guest appearances by Robin Bolt, Peter Knight, I believe of Steel Eye Span fame, plays the violin. Juliet Wolfe, Lindsay Ward also does a fine job on backing vocals, and the drumming is absolutely immense. Where did they find this guy? Zoltan Chers, I think that's how you say his name, but he's absolutely inhuman. And the bass, I've never salivated so much over so many wonderful counterpoint bass lines since the sad passing of John Entwistle and Chris Squire. I think it's fair to say that everyone who plays on this record certainly gives it 150%. So we think about the tracks on this record. Altitude, of course, is the one that grabs everyone's attention, certainly mine. It starts with that atmospheric swell before the keyboard and lead vocal come in. It reminds me a little bit of sort of classic Styx. By the way, when I say it reminds me of something else, I'm not saying there was a conscious desire by the band to emulate this. It just gives myself and you a musical frame of reference, if you like. I love the eerie guitar textures on this, and there's some wonderful lyrics like I'll be waiting for sounds of wide open spaces. It's just wonderful, it just slowly builds, like taking flight, in fact. I get a real buzz when the drumming starts. The drumming seems to emulate the throb of an aeroplane engine. I don't know if I'm reading too much into that. And this leads into some excellent keyboard parts with the bass throbbing away like Chris Squire on amphetamines. And that is before we are lifted once more by a remarkable guitar solo. I love all these signature time shifts. You get these little sonic tributaries all feeding into this oceanic swell of sound. And the cello, sort of halfway through, immediately imposes a very melancholic vibe to the whole affair. I will see you, feel you in another world is a wonderful line, soaring, imbued with emotion, as this song really is. And the line "in this empty space" is made even more powerful by the beautiful counterpoint bass and soaring guitar lines. Aviation is at the heart of this number, and it's infused with the pathos, pain and peril as it ascends into the ether. It's a complex number that keeps the customer satisfied, as Paul Simon might say. It doesn't lose itself like some of all these very early prog opuses in this twists and turns of avant-garde obfuscation. This does seem very grounded, no pun intended. And part of that is the fact that it's imbued with emotion, which enables the listener to connect with this music. As I've said, it's a musically thrilling piece, and the guitar parts of David Bainbridge are fluid, emotional, gutsy, and soaring with lots of Gilmour-esque ethereal flourishes. It's just wonderful. And the atmosphere of this one is in part attributed, it has to be, to the delicately layered backing vocals. Lindsay Ward needs a shout out at this point. And the other vocal presence, of course, is the wonderful, wonderful voice of John Young himself. I think for this one he has the perfect prog timbre. The whole track just floats along. It's just remarkable. The audience is left feeling spiritually redeemed by the generation that precedes it. I think the song soars and dives, creating an energy and a sense of anticipation. It ends with a string outro, something fading away in the distance, which seems really not only touching but quite appropriate. Gregarious is a lovely choppy piano at the start, and I love the line, "Sometimes when we fall it makes no sense at all." Delicate melodicism to this one, explored throughout. Great synth solo punctuated by that stabbing bass. I think it's fair to say it draws on the influences perhaps of ELO and Supertramp. The opening of it definitely sounds like something from Crime of the Century. There are hints of Beatlesque background vocals, hooky melody line, and clean open soundscapes, with a nice staccato section and dramatic chorus. The synth solo is perfectly placed, and Bainbridge's guitar work on this again is just wonderful. Ivory Tower, a befitting and well-furrowed metaphor, of course, opens with some atmospheric keyboard, which leads us into a song ultimately about betrayal. Reminds me a little bit of Marillion's Out of This World, with those delicate harmonic pings. The jingle of keyboards like wind chimes, and some great funky bass lines add in some real ballast. Those Gilmour-esque guitar flourishes, as I've said, the ethereal soaring. Something brings me back towards the night. A great metaphor in a song ultimately about that being, as I said, about being let down or misled, perhaps. If I could redeem myself, he sings, hinting at the need of salvation through self-realization. Pain, betrayal and loss are inevitable stepping stones in this world, and this number has a feeling of letting go, a kind of a catharsis. "Lead me to the rock that is higher than I," says Psalm 61, and I don't know if it's just me, but I get a feeling of that sense of reaching in this one. The bass is stunning and it's full of funk and fury, channeling his inner Sly and the Family Stone. Shoreline has some great counterpointed rhythms and instrumentation, wonderful guitar work. I love the Moog sections in this as well, all hung on that remarkable vocal work of Young himself. Shoreline starts with a very jazzy feel, all those what Robert Christgau would describe as those little stylistic barbarities. Robert Christgau was actually talking about Frank Zappa's One Size Fits All when he said that, but not really sure if it applies here. Nice phrasing though. There's a great line in this song though: "The presence holds the signs of where we fall." Young's delivery on this track has something of almost early Peter Gabriel to it, in my opinion. "Save me," he implores, "take me to the shoreline, let me stare into the sea." The sea is always a powerful motif for me, and it seems to be a motif on this record. I don't know if I've heard that correctly, but it reminds me of my father's last days. He lived by the sea as well. Fortitude is a wonderful song about, I think, about seeking some inner strength or inner something. A wonderful, wonderful percussion work on this one as well. Arkhangelsk, I believe is the pronunciation, or Archangel. Arkhangelsk is actually a city in Russia. It's again a coastal town in Russia, I believe. Remarkable for its folklore, remarkable for, perhaps not so remarkable for being the site of a labour camp. But nevertheless, northern Russia has a culture of its own. I don't know if this is what John Young is perhaps trying to reference in this interesting little bit of sonic soundscaping here. Possibly, I don't know. Last one, Home, co-written by John Wetton, apparently. Young's voice is wonderful on this. It's plaintive, nuanced, remarkable solo from Bainbridge, delivering that moment of musical zen for us on this record. Interestingly, as I said on my Gentle Giant review, Lennon, that's Vladimir Ilyich, by the way, not the Walrus, not the Eggman, said that I can't listen to music too often, it affects your nerves. Makes you want to stroke the heads of people who could create such beauty while living this vile hell. And this is definitely one of those albums. Had this band existed way back, maybe the October Revolution may never have happened. The sea seems to be a motif on this album, as I've said, and a powerful motif at that, emblematic of turbulence, uncertainty and expanse. This track ultimately seems to be about returning home, returning to safety, and perhaps ties in with the opening number. The Altitude Reprise closes the album, a brief electronic revisitation of the main theme, of course. It's a reprieve from the tormented anguish of Last One Home, and the guitar solo here is a perfect denouement of the whole emotional ride that this record takes us on. I'll end this review once more by doffing my cap to Rispin's remarkable sound production on this. I know I've said it, but I'll say it again. This album is a must-hear with those rich soundscapes and luxurious palette of musical expression. Bravo is what I say. Do consider picking up this record. You won't regret it. The Amazon link is below. I'd like to thank you all for watching this review. Do remember to click like, subscribe and check that bell. And check out some of the links below this video for ways you can support the work done here at Classic Album Review. It just leaves me to say I hope you're well, safe, enjoying the summer, what there is of it, and more importantly that you keep listening.